Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. I have here a huge lot of samples from Miss Marilyn. Darling, thank you so much. They reached out to me to say, has anyone reached out to you with regard to Diamine Inkvent Cashmere Rose? And they sent me all of these and I'm so excited. They also sent me some CVS caliber paper, which I'm so excited about. And then Miss Marilyn wrote this beautiful note with the Cashmere Rose and Masquerade, although there's Masquerade in here. I only saw the 9 samples and I don't know if Masquerade is in here, but that's okay. That is okay. Unless something fell out and I just didn't see it. But no, from that package there was the 9 samples and I'm so grateful for that. And Miss Marilyn Darling also wrote a lovely letter for NaNoWriMo, and I will definitely be writing back. So then the ink gift list is Diamine Glacier, Humbug, Tranquility, Raise a Glass, Merry and Bright, Weeping Willow, and then there's a few others as well. So I'm so excited to swatch all of these with you. Let's get started. So my supplies that I'll be using today, firstly, I have my A5 Galen leather journal with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. I also have this ink sample vial holder. It's called the Cricket from Fountain Pendulum, and it holds 10 samples as well as a pen. But I also have this nib holder. The holder is from River City Pen Co, and it's got my Kakimori brass nib. I've got some plastic pipettes here from Amazon. I also have my ink sample vial holder for the swirly circles. And to the side, I also have my Rhodia paper, my Wearing Cool swatch cards, as well as endless paper. That I'm going to be doing off camera while I do this here. Let's get started. The first sample I have here is Diamine Raise a Glass, and I love that Miss Marilyn Darling already put the label and colored it with the ink. It saves me an extra step, and I just have to make sure that I get all of that shimmer out of there. Now, I don't know the order of these, so I'm just doing them as I get them. Now, just a tiny little bit here. And there you go. And then swirl it around. Oh, I think I'm gonna like this. Look at that bright, punchy purple. How fun is that? And then I'm gonna dip some in on my nib here. Wow, that is bright. I love that purple. Oh, that is Lucy underneath there. So Diamine Inkvent, and this is Raise, and the dog next door is barking. Raise a Glass. Wow, I'm excited to see the shimmer in this. Dipping again, and then we'll see the different line widths here. Oh wow. There we go. So that is Diamine Inkvent Raise a Glass. The next ink I am swatching is Diamine Tranquility, and this also has shimmer. And making sure that I get all of that shimmer out. Knowing I've already got ink on my fingers from the last sample, but that is okay. Let's move this around. I love this holder, but I am clumsy and I feel like I'm gonna knock things over anyway. Ooh, that's more of a like magenta with the shimmers as well. Oh, I like that. So I'll dip some in my nib. Yeah, that's gonna get on my finger. So draw a little flower. It kind of reminds me of Jingleberry from 2022 calendar. but with shimmer. And this one is Tranquility. See, I'm the type that I can't commit to a whole Inkvent calendar because I don't know how many of them I'll like, and then I don't want to get stuck with a whole bunch of ink that isn't me. So I'm always grateful when there are people who want to give samples or sell samples to me, so I'm very happy with that. Ooh, I like that. Diamine Inkvent Tranquility. Next we have, oh, not that one, Diamine Harmony. And I don't know if this one is shimmer. It doesn't look like there's any shimmer in that one, so I don't really have to shake it up like the rest of them. Oh gosh, I'm looking at Raise a Glass and Tranquility drying, and they're just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Excited. Okay. So I'll put a little circle here and then swirl it around with the ink sample vial. Ooh, this reminds me a little bit of like a darker memory lane from last year, or from the previous year's 2022 Inkvent calendar. I really like that purple. That's beautiful. And you can see that there's going to be some chromo shading in that. You can see that in the swatch already. Gorgeous. And so far with the ink flow, so this one's Harmony, matches really well with my nib holder. The ink flow is really great so far on these inks. So just a little bit more here just to be able to do these line widths. I love this brass nib for that, the different line widths. It's just gorgeous. Look at how that's drying. That is gorgeous. So that is Diamine Harmony. The next ink is Diamine Merry and Bright, and this one definitely has shimmer, and it's kind of stuck to the bottom. Let's agitate that a bit to get that shimmer distributed throughout. One of the things, or one of the reasons why I like Diamine shimmer inks is because the shimmer distribution seems to last even throughout the writing sample. There are some shimmer inks out there where the shimmer is very, very prominent at the beginning of the writing sample, and then it just disappears once you start writing. Whereas it seems pretty prevalent throughout. This reminds me of Jinhao Apple Green, because I just saw it on Simone's sample video, and this was a sample that Jinhao Apple Green was also sent to me by Pamela, or given to me at the San Francisco Pen Show by Pamela. But the Diamine has the shimmer throughout, and I'm hoping that I agitated the sample enough to be able to get that. Diamine Inkvent, and this is Merry and Bright. Yeah, like I was saying, shimmers, the first inks that I ever tried with Diamine were the shimmer inks. So I tried Cocoa Shimmer, I tried Caramel Sparkle, I tried, there's one more, Enchanted Ocean, and I love them. They are still some of my favorite inks, and I do need to make an effort to use them more. Oh, look at that. Oh. Love that. It'll be interesting to see how that comes across in a finer line. So that is Diamine Merry and Bright. The next one we have is Diamine Glacier, and this one is definitely a shimmer ink. So let's just agitate that and make sure I get the shimmer all throughout the sample. And what am I doing next? Grabbing a pipette. Oof. And I was really happy that these samples None of them exploded. None of them arrived with leakages or anything. So I think part of that as well is the type of sample ink vial that is used. There are some on Amazon that when purchased, they don't have a little O-ring in the cap, and that makes a huge difference. Oh, how pretty. That's stunning. Oh my gosh, it does look like a glacier. Like it just, now I'm thinking of like the whole Game of Thrones Winterfell. That's beautiful. So Diamine Inkvent and Glacier. I would be interested to see how this actually works in a pen, because I know swatching is lovely, but the whole experience in a pen could be completely different. And while I love swatching, there is also something to be said about doing a journal entry with these inks. Oh wow, that is just like shimmer crazy. All right, so that is Diamine Inkvent Glacier. The next ink is Cashmere Rose, and this is the one that I had many people actually say to me, this one is so you. Karina would love this. This ink is so Karina. And I love that. I love that you guys know what is my taste for inks. So thank you for shouting out to me, or shouting me out for an ink that you all know that I would love. Ooh, ooh, ooh. 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 Okay, yes, that is my reaction, because I don't know how to describe it yet, because it's like a dusty pinky red, and it's more red than pink, and I like it. I do like it. I don't have a lot of red inks, but I do have a lot of pinks and dusty pinks, if you know me. Whoop, Diamine, cannot write. And I'm excited for this one. And I feel like I've already chosen my inks for March, but there are gonna have to be some from this group that I'll have to put into my pens, because wow, I love that. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Oh, so that's Diamine Cashmere Rose. The next one on the list is Diamine Bah Humbug, and this one has, I think, shimmer and sheen. And I think this was a favorite actually of many people's in, like, I think Atlas Stationers were doing a poll every day for a favorite ink, and this one was winning, I think, for a few days until it got to Raise a Glass. So I'm excited for this one to see what that looks like. Oh gosh, and I got ink right in the middle of the page. That just seems to be the way it is with me. Ooh, that is like a smooth brown. Who knew I would like the browns, right? The brown inks are something that I am liking more and more. So this is Diamine Inkvent, and it's Bah Humbug. Oh, Humbug. Oh my goodness, that's awful. There we go. But the way that it's drying like it's got a little bit of, it's drying not as brown, it's more maroon. There's a little bit of red in there that is making it warmer in tone. And I like that. Oh, I cannot wait to see that because you can see a little bit of that shimmer. I cannot wait to see that dried. So that's Diamine Inkvent Bah Humbug. Okay, the more that I look at that, like here it looks more brown and here it looks more red. And then if you look at what it looks like on the Rhodia paper, it looks more red. So I put it down on both the red and the brown color families, but that is stunning. That's gorgeous. The next one we have is Diamine Weeping Willow. And this one was an interesting one. A lot of people weren't sure what necessarily to do with this one. I think it was because, one, it doesn't seem like your typical, you know, Christmassy color, but it's also, let me see what this comes out as. It's really light. You know, when you swatch it in the circle like that, even doing that looks really light. So I'm gonna be interested to see what this looks like with, or in the writing sample. It reminds me a little bit of that Sailor 50th anniversary ink. I'm gonna write this over here so I don't get over that splotch. And it already feels dry, just even on this nib, so Weeping Willow. So if I were to use this in a pen, it would have to be a wet writing nib because it does feel like a drier ink already. But it's pretty, it is really pretty, but I wonder if it would be too light and too dry. I don't think I would ever use this in like an extra fine or a needlepoint nib unless I added maybe the Van Ness White Lightning to it. That could be a consideration. But I love how that's drying. Look at that chromo shading in there. That's beautiful. So that's Diamine Weeping Willow. And the last one is Diamine Walnut. This one is also another standard ink, and I don't think it has any shimmer or anything like that in here. So yes, I chose another brown. Like, who knew that I would like brown inks as much as I do now? You know, go figure. Okay, so let's swirl that around. I'm loving the choices here so far though. I'm watching as they dry. Ooh, I like that. I like that brown. It's one of those browns where I feel like there's, I say, not a lot of complexity to it. No, but I mean, when it comes to a brown ink, you want it to have interest, but not look like it's a different shade of black. Now, I think in the writing sample, it's probably gonna look like just a really dark brown, and you're not gonna get a lot of that saturation and shading, but let's see. I like it. Oh, I like that. So then the different line widths, let's just do, there we go. And I know, it's funny, I'm thinking back to the end of my 2023 journal. The line widths were getting harder and harder to do, the chunkier that my journal got. So there we go. So that is Diamine Walnut. So there are all of the inks swatched, and I just wanted to do a quick comparison between the swatch that I have on Rhodia paper and Endless Regalia paper to what I have on the Tomoe River paper. So I'm going to bring these as a close-up so you guys can see here. So for Diamine Raise a Glass on the Tomoe River paper, you can really see the sheen and the shimmer. Can't see it as much on the Rhodia paper, although I didn't have the largest drop on there. And then with the Endless Regalia paper, you can see the shimmer and the sheen, but it looks like it's a bluer or a darker purple on here. But yeah, the general consensus with the Endless Regalia paper is that it bleeds through. Like, it's not a great paper for, excuse me, for a fountain pen ink. So then let's move to Diamine Tranquility and look at the amount of shimmer that is on the Rhodia paper. That's crazy. And then the Tomoe River paper here. I like the balance of the shimmer here, definitely a lot better. And then here, it looks like the shimmer doesn't even have a lot of color on the Endless Regalia paper, but in the writing sample, there is a lot of gold shimmer there, and I absolutely love that. It's such a pretty ink. I do prefer it, I think, on the Tomoe River paper than I do the other two papers. So the next one, we have Diamine Harmony, and this actually reminds me of Sailor Shikiori Harahara, and is it Shikiori Harahara, but like I love this purple, and you can see a lot more of the chromo shading in the Tomoe River paper versus in the Rhodia paper. It looks a little bit more flat, and then definitely here in the Endless Regalia paper, it definitely looks flatter. You don't get as much of the shading property on the Endless Regalia paper. So that's Harmony. Then we have Merry and Bright, and you can really see the shimmer in that one. Definitely a bit more spread out in the Tomoe River paper, and a little bit, it's not, I mean, I think actually across the three, it looks pretty similar across the three, except for, of course, the Endless Regalia paper just bleeds like crazy, but I do love that. It does remind me of Jinhao Apple Green, but with shimmer. Such a pretty ink. Then we have Diamine Glacier, and honestly, like the amount of shimmer in here is nuts. And even in the Tomoe River paper sample versus the Rhodia, it didn't seem like a lot came out on the Endless Regalia paper, but you can definitely see that in the writing sample. It looks very similar across all three, but I feel like you can get, there's like a tiny bit of sheen that's coming out in the Tomoe River paper and not as much in the Rhodia, and none at all actually in the Endless Regalia paper. So that's Glacier. So then we have Cashmere Rose. I feel like it does look similar between the Rhodia paper and the Tomoe River paper, but I feel like it just looks darker and more saturated on the Tomoe River paper than it does on the Rhodia. And then on the Endless, it actually does look lighter on the Endless Regalia paper. So in terms of the saturation, I do prefer it on the Tomoe River paper, but the Tomoe River paper is what I use for most everything. So that's Cashmere Rose. And then we have Bah Humbug. This is an awesome, awesome ink. I mean, look at that shimmer on here. Now you don't get as much of the sheen on the Rhodia paper, whereas on the Tomoe River paper you can see a little bit of that ring of sheen here and then that shimmer. I really, really like this on the Tomoe River paper. And then on the Endless Regalia paper, you don't see as much of that sheen on there, unfortunately, but it's still such a great ink. Then we have Diamine Weeping Willow. I don't see too much of a difference between the Rhodia paper and the Tomoe River paper, but you don't really see as much of that chromo shading on the Endless Regalia paper. But I did want to show you, I did pull out a sample actually of Troublemaker Kelp Tea, and it pretty much looks exactly the same as Troublemaker Kelp Tea, like Rhodia paper to Rhodia paper. It looks exactly the same, but I did find Troublemaker Kelp Tea a little bit dry, so I also found the same with the Weeping Willow, so both were dry. So interestingly enough, I do have actually a bottle of Kelp Tea, so I may not end up keeping Weeping Willow. We'll see. Then lastly, we have a Diamine Walnut. Not much sheen at all. I can see a little bit of the sheen that's pooling. It's like a black sheen pooling around the heavily saturated parts, but really you don't see that much on the Rhodia paper as well. So really just, I feel like it's a very basic brown ink, but it still looks lovely. And I mean, even writing with it in the really saturated parts, it looks black. Then it does give a little bit more shading when you've got the wider or the broader nibs there. So that is Diamine Walnut. So there are all of the inks. Thank you again to Miss Marilyn Darling for sending these through to me. I am so excited for Cashmere Rose, for Tranquility Race. I love them. I mean, Weeping Willow is probably one that I won't use, and I probably may give that away because I feel like I already have something similar with Troublemaker Kelp Tea, but the rest of them are just fantastic and I'm excited to use them. Which of these is your favorite? Or if there is an Inkvent ink that hasn't been featured here, let me know what your favorite is down below. I do still want to try Masquerade and I am itching to try that. All right, and that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching and have yourselves a great day.